Chapter 31, 031 The Beauty Rescue the Hero. It contains rich biological knowledge. Originally, the extraordinary spider was part of his plan. After all, after obtaining the ability to survive, a stronger self-defense ability is needed. Spider ability is such an ability, the easiest to obtain, and has great potential. If fully developed, it will have terrifying power on the scale of hundreds of tons. It is almost comparable to the early Hulk and Abomination, Emil Blinsky. As long as the spider ability is developed to the extreme, it will be enough for him to deal with many things. If he can acquire Osborn, he will save a lot of work, without the need to steal the extraordinary spider or start from scratch with research, and so on. Therefore Adam is ready to bottom out Osborn's company, and when it is on the verge of bankruptcy, at the lowest price, he will take it over. Coincidentally, Chloe gave him a very generous amount of money. Moreover, as long as he acquires Osborn's company, he can easily revive Osborn by slightly improving some of Osborn's technology or the technology in his hands. This will allow him to receive generous rewards. By then, he can repay the debt he borrowed from Chloe. But next, he needs to get a fake identity first, otherwise it will be difficult to proceed. After all, his original identity is unusable, but in modern society, many things require an identity, otherwise it's not easy to handle. The money he has on him is just enough to get a fake identity. Thinking of this, he put his phone back in his pocket and drove towards the Queens area of New York. During the rush, a motorcycle came from the front. A man glanced at Adam. Adam also glanced at the other party. Then the two vehicles passed each other. Adam's mind flashed the other person's face and murmured, Baron Zima. New York is really small. Just wandering around, you can meet someone you know. Baron Zima. His family died in the Sokovia incident, so he resented the members of the Avengers Alliance. He eventually planned a series of events, triggering the civil war within the Avengers Alliance, hoping to make the members of the Avengers Alliance kill each other. Adam really didn't expect. Just arrived in New York, and met such a person. He looked at himself in the mirror, with a mask and sunglasses, his face mostly covered. He understood that he needed to learn some makeup techniques, otherwise, always covering his face would not be a solution. Whoosh! The car headed towards New York, towards this bustling and contradictory city filled with a lot of evil. Soon, he arrived at the place to get a fake identity. It was in an alley, a relatively secluded place. There were no signs outside, and behind the door was a curtain. Pushing aside the curtain and entering, he saw the situation inside. The space inside was narrow and messy. In the corner, there was a workbench. There were several computers on the workbench. A man with messy hair was sitting behind it, typing on the keyboard. What do you want? The man didn't look up. Adam spoke. 50,000, a new identity. Oh, it seems like you were introduced by someone you know. You're quite familiar with this place. The man glanced at Adam. Give money, take a photo, get an identity. The man sniffed. Adam took out a stack of money from his backpack and placed it on the table. Count it. The man put the money into a counting machine. Clatter clatter. Soon the money was counted. After receiving the money, the man started to act, taking photos of Adam while talking. The identities I provide here are basically foolproof. Because the identity information here is real. Just that these identity information belongs to missing persons. I will turn their information into yours, modify the photos in their systems, and let you continue to live under their identities. As long as you don't do anything stupid, there shouldn't be any problems. After taking the photo, the other person started working at lightning speed. The keyboard clacked and clattered. In no time at all, a brand new ID card was placed in Adam's hand. The profile picture looked about 70 to 80% similar to Adam. The speed was beyond Adam's imagination. You're quite efficient. Of course, efficiency is life to me. Holding the new ID, Adam said, from now on, I am Adam Smith. With this new identity, everything he did would be more convenient. He could even go and take down Osborn Corporation with this identity. The other person waved his hand and said, goodbye, brother. With the item in hand, Adam left. He needed to go to the safe house and study the self-healing factor. Outside on the street, a car was parked with a motorcycle tied on top. 2 or 3 men were gathered around the car. One of them spoke, this car looks really good, and there's a decent looking motorcycle on top. If we take this car, we can get a good amount of money. Alright, I'll unlock this door. Saying that, one person took out a specialized lock-picking tool and prepared to open it. Just at that moment, a calm and powerful voice sounded from them, that's my car. The group turned their heads. They saw a man wearing sunglasses. Seeing the owner had arrived, the thieves not only didn't panic, but even took out weapons, either iron rods or daggers. The thief with the iron rod said, you brat, get lost if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, I'll show you. Seeing this, Adam's mouth twitched slightly. No wonder it's New York, the city of sin, the legendary Gotham City. The people here are truly straightforward. When stealing a car doesn't work, they resort to direct robbery, fully understanding the concept of escalating crimes. He took a step forward, his expression unchanged, calmly saying, get lost. Hearing this, the thieves' faces instantly turned dark. Are you looking to die? Saying that, they charged towards Adam. Just at that moment, a graceful figure rushed out. Golden hair fluttered, with a touch of pink at the tips. Bang, 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 several powerful kicks were unleashed. Immediately, The thieves were sent flying, letting out cries of pain. A light hum came. You guys are truly seeking death, robbing in broad daylight. The thieves quickly got up and ran away. The person who made the move turned around. It was a slender and elegant girl. She had a delicate appearance, with big, bright eyes, and carried a guitar on her back. She smiled, revealing 2 dimples. Are you alright, friend? Chapter 32, 032 Catch a big fat sheep? Adam had intended to take action, but unexpectedly someone beat him to it. This was the first time someone had helped him. It made him feel slightly uncomfortable. He nodded and said, I'm fine, thank you for your help. The girl's smile became even brighter. It's nothing, I enjoy helping others. Goodbye, friend. I wish you a pleasant afternoon in the Queen's District. With that, she adjusted the strap of her guitar and prepared to leave gracefully. Looking at the girl's hair color, Adam was reminded of a character from Marvel, but he wasn't sure if it was the same person. After all, in theory, there shouldn't be such a character in the Marvel universe, but considering that this world has integrated mutants, it's possible that character could be integrated as well. So he casually asked, since you helped me, can I ask for your name? The girl blinked at him. Gwen. After saying that, she left, like the wind, coming and going lightly. Hearing this name, and comparing it to the girl's hair color, Adam basically guessed the girl's identity. Ghost Spider, Gwen. Adam got into his car, started the engine, and drove away. He murmured, I didn't expect it to be Ghost Spider Gwen. I just don't know if she has become Ghost Spider now. After all, from what he saw of Gwen's movements just now, they were at the speed and strength of an ordinary person. So he didn't know if she had become Ghost Spider. He turned the steering wheel, made a turn, and continued driving towards his destination. He looked at the scenery outside the window and murmured, sure enough, it's New York. I haven't been here for half a day and I've already encountered 2 well-known figures. Indeed, coming here was the right choice. I can find what I want faster here. In a corner, those 3 car thieves emerged, watching Adam's car drive away. One of them squinted and said, such a good car, this guy must be an easy target. Another person spoke, definitely an easy target, we can't miss this opportunity. If it wasn't for that damn woman just now, we might have succeeded. That damn woman? Now this fat sheep got away. A voice interrupted, who said that? The thin man who had taken out professional lockpicking tools took out his phone. He tapped a few times, and a GPS system popped up. The other 2 widened their eyes. What's this? The thin man smiled proudly. GPS system. I had placed a tracking button on the bottom of that car from the beginning. So, this guy can't escape from us. I used to work at Stark Industries, although I was fired for theft, I still have my abilities. The other 2 chuckled. Meeting us, this guy can only consider himself unlucky. Let's go, follow him and see where this guy lives. They were about to get in the car and leave. When they saw 2 people approaching, one of them looked dejected. Immediately, the other person made a sarcastic remark. Oh, isn't this the great thief Scott? How come you're out of prison? And isn't this Lewis next to you? How come you're hanging out with Scott again? Aren't you afraid both of you will end up back inside? Perhaps thieves in the same profession are enemies, so the 3 of them mocked Scott and Lewis, who were also thieves. Scott, with a dejected look, clenched his fist in response to the other party's mockery. But he didn't dare to act because he knew that the 3 people in front of him were gang members, and they were crazy. If he provoked them, it wouldn't end well. He had only recently been released from prison and couldn't afford to cause trouble. Beside him, Lewis quickly pulled his friend away and whispered, don't bother with them, it's not worth it. If Adam were here, he would be able to recognize him. The dejected person is none other than the future Ant-Man. The group of car thieves continued to mock the 2 as they walked away. After doing all this, the car thieves felt much better, and the frustration from Gwen's scolding had dissipated. Let's go, let's not bother with this waste. Let's go find that unlucky guy. Yes, finding the fat sheep is more important. I have a good feeling about this, we're going to make a big profit this time. Hearing this, the group of people all showed satisfied smiles. They immediately hailed a taxi and followed the GPS to their destination. Shortly after, Adam arrived at his destination. He arrived at the location of Claw in New York. It was an independent small villa with a fence around it and a small courtyard inside. Looking at the small villa in front of him, Adam couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect this safe house to be so high profile. A mansion in the bustling city. This is a bit too conspicuous. Adam clicked his tongue in amazement. He got out of the car and approached the door, entering the temporary password sent by Claw into the electronic lock. Verification successful? Initiating iris data collection, unlocking owner mode. You will have free access to any area of this house in the future. Detecting that you have a car, opening the gate. Rows of words appeared on the electronic screen. The gate opened immediately. Adam drove in and parked the car in the parking space. After doing all this, he excitedly opened the trunk. After all, the research was finally about to begin. The clone lay motionless like a stone, only its eyes could move. The clone stared at Adam intently. Seeing Adam's eager gaze, the clone X-24 swallowed nervously, feeling extremely uneasy. Adam comforted, don't be nervous, it's just a small experiment. After saying that, Adam lifted the clone and walked towards the house. Claw had already sent him the layout of the house, so he walked into the basement with ease. The basement was a tool room, equipped with tools and equipment similar to another safe house, quite complete. Adam placed the clone on the steel experimental table. Using magnetic handcuffs, he firmly shackled the clone to the table. 4 magnetic handcuffs, locked onto the steel, even if the clone's strength far exceeded that of an ordinary person, it couldn't break free. This way, even if the neurotoxin runs out, I don't have to worry about you running away. Adam nodded in satisfaction. The clone on the experimental table became increasingly terrified. Adam took out a sharp surgical knife from the side. Let's test your recovery ability first. Saying that, he made a cut towards the clone. Chapter 33, 033 Complex Superhelical Structure, by some mice. After colliding with 3 car thieves, Scott and Lewis left in silence. They walked on the street, their faces not looking good. Scott clenched his fist. Those damn guys, I really want to punch them. Lewis smiled bitterly. The 2 of us can't win against them. After all, they are gang members who are used to fighting. And it seems like they have some connection with the Hand, the secretive Japanese organization. It's not something we, powerless small-time crooks, can afford to provoke. Speaking of this, Lewis sighed. Scott was taken aback. The Hand? Are you talking about that Japanese organization in Hell's Kitchen? Lewis nodded. Hearing this, Scott smiled bitterly. Whether it's fighting alone or comparing power, we can't compare to them. Lewis continued. I can see that you don't look good. What's wrong? Upon hearing this, Scott's expression became gloomy. I got fired because of my criminal record. My boss fired me. Hearing this, Lewis patted Scott's shoulder and sighed. Then he said, then think about our situation again. We still need to make money, don't we? Scott replied in a hoarse voice, I'll think about it. He looked around. Tall buildings reflected the bright sunlight, filled with the vibrancy of New York. But all of this seemed unrelated to him, Scott. He was just a stain in this dreamlike and bustling city. On the other side, in the basement of a safe house, Adam was conducting research on the clone. Wearing white surgical gloves, he cut open the clone's body, testing the healing process at different depths. At the same time, he recorded the data on the computer next to him. The keyboard was constantly being tapped. Cutting the epidermis only takes 15 seconds to heal. Cutting the deltoid muscle only takes 60 seconds to heal. Cutting the anterior tibial muscle only takes 55 seconds to heal. Adam continued to experiment and constantly entered data on the keyboard. I still have to personally tap the keyboard and enter data. The equipment here is not very intelligent. If it were Iron Man's set of equipment, with artificial intelligence assistance, the AI would automatically record, and most of the work could be completed through conversation. That would be true efficiency. Adam sighed. My efficiency is still too low. It seems that I need to upgrade my related equipment in the future. But that has to wait until I acquire Osborn's company. After all, only by acquiring Osborn can I have enough resources to upgrade the equipment. While muttering to himself, Adam continued to work. On the operating table, the clone's body was covered in blood stains, with some wounds still healing, grotesque and terrifying with red flesh protruding. His forehead was covered in sweat, his lips constantly trembling, and his body still somewhat stiff. He looked at Adam with fear in his eyes. What he was most worried about was ending up in an irreparable state. And now, this situation had actually happened. The clone looked at the man in front of him, fear filling his eyes, especially when he saw him performing surgery and talking to himself. That was what scared the clone the most. Adam glanced at the clone. This neurotoxin is even better than I imagined. It's been so long, and it still works. He continued, sorry, when one person is constantly doing research, they can't always be tense. So occasionally, they need to say something to relax their nerves. Although it may look terrifying, like a pervert. But don't worry, I am mentally stable, everything is under control, you don't need to be afraid. Listening to Adam's words, the clone became even more fearful. His lips trembled even more intensely. Adam looked at the wounds on the clone's body and said, your self-healing ability is not good. Next, I will start analyzing your genes. His eyes flickered with a hint of excitement. Once I decipher your genome, I will be able to obtain your ability. He dropped a drop of the clone's blood onto an electron microscope. Immediately, a double helix structure appeared before his eyes. It was 2 strands of deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, coiling around a common central axis, forming a double helix structure, which is the DNA inside the body. DNA, also known as deoxyribonucleic acid, is a complex organic compound with a molecular structure. It is a long polymer composed of repeating nucleotide units, with a width of 2.2 to 2.6 nanometers and each nucleotide monomer measuring 0.33 nanometers in length. It exists as a component of chromosomes in the cell nucleus. Its function is to store genetic information. This genetic information is the source of the mutant's powerful abilities. He then zoomed in, and the double helix DNA appeared in a larger perspective, revealing a more high-level structure. It was a superstructure of DNA formed by further twisting, coiling, and folding of the double helix. Helical, coiled, folded, forming a complex superhelix. Adam understood. It is this high-level structure that influences the function of DNA and makes mutants different. Deciphering such a large genome is giving me a headache. Adam felt a slight headache. After all, the genes inside the body are extremely vast. He couldn't help but think of Essex Corporation. Since Essex Corporation can create new mutants, they must have very mature genetic technology. If I can get it, I can save a lot of effort. Unfortunately, I can't get it now. I can only do it myself, starting from scratch. Adam sighed. Also, to analyze these genomes, I need some test subjects, to observe the effects and analyze their functions. Later, I will go to the market and buy some test subjects. Adam said as he began to analyze and record the genome in front of him. Outside the house, 3 car thieves were standing at the gate. One of them, who had worked at Stark Industries, took out a computer and connected it to the gate's system. It can be said that he truly lived up to his reputation of having skills, having worked at Stark Industries. Soon, with the car thieves tapping, creak, the gate opened. The 3 of them were extremely excited. We did it. Let's go in and make a fortune. Chapter 34, 034. This wave is going to make a lot of money. Speaking of this, several thieves wearing hoods and masks immediately entered the courtyard. They were carrying wrenches, daggers, and other tools for self-defense. Even the thin man who opened the door had his hand on his waist, where there was a gun. As they entered, the thieves saw a car parked in the courtyard. Seeing this, the thin man chuckled softly, "When we leave, we can take this car with us. It's a perfect getaway vehicle. After we escape, we can even sell it, killing 2 birds with 1 stone." The other 2 also chuckled softly. "With this car, we can take away more things. Yes, we can fleece this fat sheep for more wool." The thin man spoke, "Let's be careful not to alert the man. If he calls the police, our plan could be ruined." His companion nodded, "You're right." They looked inside. A 3-story exquisite small building stood there, with intricate carvings and beautiful paintings. "Wow, this house is really beautiful. Damn, these rich people live so comfortably. I can't bear not to fleece this man properly. AFK. It's so unfair. If I encounter that man, I must beat him up. Why does he get to live in such a nice house?" The few of them muttered enviously and jealously. They sneaked towards the house. Because the thin man had previously tampered with the security system when he broke in, they didn't encounter any alarms along the way. Using specialized lock-picking tools, the thin man opened the door and walked in. As they entered, everyone's eyes sharpened. The furniture and decorations inside were of the highest quality, grand and majestic, exuding a classical beauty that was very pleasing to the eye. All the furniture was top-notch. "Wow, this sofa is definitely custom-made by a top Italian workshop. So comfortable." The thin man gently stroked the genuine leather of the sofa, showing a sense of enjoyment. Another person touched the carpet. "This carpet is definitely handmade, and it's very well made. It looks expensive at first glance. A whole wall of murals, a depiction of heaven. These angels are so lifelike and realistic. It's art." Looking at these things, the few of them had stars in their eyes. "We hit the jackpot. We really hit the jackpot this time. This guy is so rich. We're going to make a fortune." They circled around the entire room, filled with excitement. Everything in this house, from the furniture to the decorations, exuded a sense of luxury. They also went upstairs, where the luxury continued. The few of them felt like they had hit the jackpot. But soon, their brows furrowed. One thief gritted his teeth. "We've been searching for so long, and I haven't seen a single bit of cash or treasure, just these expensive furniture and decorations." Another person said, "There's no cash or gold. Are we supposed to steal these furniture? These furniture are bulky, it's difficult to steal them." He clenched his fist. "And, after going around in circles, we haven't seen the man's figure. Where is he? Did he go out?" The thin man looked at the surroundings, also furrowing his brow tightly. "This house is so luxurious, there must be some money here. This doesn't make sense. Normally, in such a wealthy house, there would be hundreds of thousands, if not more, but there isn't even a safe. It's abnormal. No, there must be a safe here, there's money." The thin man looked around, confident in his statement. "But we searched the entire house and didn't find anything," said the companion. "There is only one possibility then. There must be a hidden room here, and the things are hidden inside the hidden room." The thin man looked around, squinting his eyes slightly. "Once we find the hidden room, we will find the money." Upon hearing this, the people around them all brightened up. "Let's search." Immediately, a group of people started searching the room. Soon enough, the thin man found traces of the entrance to the hidden room. He tapped on a wall and found that the sound was slightly clearer than the others, instantly brightening his eyes. "I found it. The sound here is clearer, which means this is not a solid wall. Behind this wall, there must be something hidden. The switch should be nearby." The other 2 quickly ran over to help. Soon enough, one of the companions felt an inconspicuous groove. He pressed it, and a display screen appeared. The thin man quickly connected to it and started cracking the code. After a few tens of seconds, a creaking sound was heard. The wall opened up. A deep spiral passage leading underground was revealed. Seeing this scene, the 3 of them trembled with excitement. The thin man clenched his fist, finally found it. "The safe, the cash, and the jewelry must be down here." The companion next to him's voice trembled. "We're definitely going big with this." Another companion interjected, "Since we didn't see that man here, could he be down here?" A coldness flashed in the companion's eyes. "If he's down here, I don't mind killing him off after taking the things. In such a hidden place, no one would discover a dead body inside." He smirked as he said this. The thin man said, "If we encounter that kid, we must eliminate him. After all, he has seen us before, so he might recognize us. Leaving him behind would leave us with trouble." "You're right, this hidden room down here is so concealed that even if he's gone, it would be difficult for anyone to find it. Let's go." After saying that, the three of them walked towards the deep spiral staircase, their eyes filled with anticipation and excitement. The spiral staircase had no bright light, only some dim warm light, making the corridor even darker. The dim environment couldn't conceal the excitement in the hearts of the three. After reaching the bottom, they came across an iron door. There was a slight gap in the iron door. Light seeped through the gap, blending into the darkness outside. Besides the light seeping through, there was also a strange rhythmic sound of cutting meat, continuous and uninterrupted. In addition to that, there was the sound of a keyboard constantly ringing. Most importantly, there was a thick smell of blood wafting out. All of this had a hint of eeriness. The three of them froze in their tracks, involuntarily, swallowing their saliva. Chapter 35, 035 The Hand's Treasure. At this moment, the intense excitement in their hearts has diminished, replaced by a hint of inexplicable unease. However, they are trying to explain it to themselves. Perhaps they are cutting raw beef inside, or slaughtering chickens or something, which is why there is a strong smell of blood and the sound of cutting meat. Even though they think this way, they still feel uneasy in their hearts. Looking at the bright gap ahead, they don't feel any sense of brightness, but rather a sense of gloominess. They exchange glances and see a trace of unease in each other's eyes, especially with the strong smell of blood in the air and the sound of cutting meat in their ears. But then, a fierce light flashes in the eyes of the thin man, and he shouts, "There's a lot of money inside. Even if the devil comes today, don't even think about stopping me from making money." After saying that, he takes out a pistol, releases the safety, and loads it. Bang! He kicks open the door. Immediately after, the scene inside is revealed. Only a figure stands in front. In front of him is an operating table. Locked on the table is a bloody man, covered in sweat, with bloody wounds and exposed flesh. And the one responsible for all this is the fat sheep they mentioned. The other person carefully cuts open the man's biceps on the operating table, revealing the red and textured muscles. This scene stuns the three who entered, their pupils shrinking and their spines chilling. The man performing the surgery doesn't react much to the commotion caused by the three. He continues to cut carefully, only saying, "You finally came. You took so long to find the secret room, you've really worked hard." Hearing the other person's words, the three are instantly horrified. The other person already knew they were coming. The black-haired man continues, "I was actually planning to go out and buy some guinea pigs, but I didn't expect to have free door-to-door service." "That's great." He nods in satisfaction. Hearing this, the hearts of the few people grow even colder. At this moment, they feel the gaze of the clone on the operating table. Looking over, they see a deep sense of sympathy and pity in the other person's eyes. In fact, when the three were cracking the door, Adam had already received an alert. Through the surveillance outside, he immediately recognized the three as the car thieves from before. He didn't expect these three were so persistent. They even tried to break into the house after failing to steal the car. So, Adam was waiting for them to come down on their own, becoming his experimental subjects, just in time to verify the massive genome on the clone. The thin man sees this and shouts, "Who the hell do you think you are? You think you're more powerful than my bullets? I'll blow you up with one shot." AFK. As he says that, he raises the gun in his hand. Whoosh! A cold light flashes through the air. A scream rings out. The thin man's face contorts as he grips his right hand, which has a surgical knife stuck in it, blood dripping from it. The pistol falls to the ground, stained with blood. Adam's speed is incredibly fast. The other two didn't even see Adam's action clearly. They only saw the scene of their companion being pierced through the hand. A huge amount of fear filled the hearts of the two people. In an instant, the two turned around, wanting to escape from here. They completely ignored their companion who was kneeling on the ground, screaming in pain. Bang! The door closed automatically, blocking the two's way out. "No, no, no, let us out. I want to get out." The two pounded on the door, trying to break free. On the other side, Adam also finished his actions and walked towards the three people. Seeing this, the two became even more frightened. Watching Adam slowly approach, the fear in the hearts of the few people grew stronger and stronger, feeling increasingly suffocated. Seeing this, the thin man quickly reached for his gun with his left hand, trying to defend himself. Whoosh! Another cold light fell. The thin man covered his hand, which was pinned to the ground by a surgical knife, and screamed in pain again. In an extremely horrifying and oppressive situation, one person seemed to be on the verge of collapse, shouting angrily, "FK it? I'll fight you." He swung an iron plate wrench towards Adam. Bang! Adam kicked with his long legs, instantly knocking the opponent to the ground. He moved his figure. Soon, the last person also fell. After a moment, inside the spacious tool room, three naked bodies were tied to three workbenches. "Let us go. We know we were wrong. We were wrong. We were wrong. Spare us. We will never step foot in here again. Please, spare us. As long as you let us go, we will never come back." The few people cried bitterly, their eyes filled with fear. Adam completely ignored them. Instead, he looked at a note that had just been taken from them, hidden in a secret compartment in a wallet. On it was written a date and address, a week later at the dock. Seeing this, Adam spoke, "What is this?" Hiding something so discreetly, Adam's intuition told him that this date and address were not simple. The thin man quickly spoke, I'll tell you the meaning of this information if you let me go." Hearing this, Adam raised his hand, the sharp surgical knife emitting a cold light. Swoosh! The sharp blade easily cut through the muscles of the thin man's thigh. Ah! The thin man screamed in agony. Adam calmly looked at the other two. The two quickly spilled everything like beans. I'll tell you. We were working for the Hand Association. The Japanese gang is preparing to transport something valuable to New York for the Hand Association. This is the time and place. We were specifically assigned to keep watch outside and assess the situation. That's all the relevant information. Adam looked at the note and continued to ask, what are they planning to transport? The two shook their heads quickly. We don't know about that. We were only responsible for keeping watch. The specific contents are not something we at our level would know. Only the higher UPS of the Hand Association probably know. Adam glanced at the expressions and tone of the two, and it didn't seem like they were lying. However, he didn't expect that these three people would be connected to the Hand Association. Adam didn't know much about the Hand Association either, only that it was a large and extraordinary ninja organization, belonging to the antagonist group. Chapter 36, 036 Self-Healing Factor Generated Successfully? This organization possesses the ability to resurrect dead man, and has a group of powerful ninjas, who seem to also possess ninjutsu skills. It seems to worship and sacrifice to an evil demon. As for what kind of demon it is and what abilities the demon has, Adam doesn't know. The Hand Association is one of the top villainous organizations in Hell's Kitchen. He looked at the note in his hand again and murmured, the Hand Association. A precious item for the Hand Association. Since even the Hand Association considers it precious, it must be valuable. Adam murmured to himself, his eyes gleaming. He was curious about this treasure. He looked at the specific time and location on the note. A week later, maybe I can go and take a look. After saying that, he threw the note into the trash can. Next, let's continue researching my own things. Let's experiment with the newly obtained genome on you guys and see what reactions there will be. Saying that, he picked up a surgical knife, carried specialized equipment, and walked towards the skinny one. Soon, sounds of horrifying screams and howls filled the workshop. Watching the inhumane treatment the skinny one was enduring, the other two were scared and crying, constantly screaming. Adam felt a bit annoyed. He immediately covered the mouths of the three. Compared to X-24, you guys are still too fragile. Your tolerance for pain is too weak. Adam shook his head helplessly. But don't worry, I have a good sense of measure. I won't let you lose your lives. He looked at the three with a calm gaze. The three immediately screamed even louder, struggling with all their might, but their hands, feet, and waist were tightly locked to the operating table. As they struggled, their wrists and ankles were rubbed raw and bleeding. They looked at Adam with bloodshot eyes, filled with fear and madness. At this moment, their only thought was death. To stay away from the devil in front of them, they had never longed for death like this before. Regarding this, Adam's hand holding the surgical knife, syringe, and other instruments remained incredibly steady. Inside the entire room, sounds of screams coming from throats continued to echo. In stark contrast to the three, was the clone next to them. Facing various tortures, it remained motionless, without any screams, only trembling lips and sweating profusely. This greatly shocked the three. They couldn't imagine that there could be such a resolute person in the world. During their break, they looked at the clone, their eyes filled with disbelief. The clone looked back at them, still unmoving, only its lips twitching, its eyes filled with sorrow. It had something to say, but it was simply unable to move. The neurotoxin was too strong, and it hadn't recovered yet. In the following days, Adam continued to study the clone, constantly reading cutting-edge biology knowledge and conducting experiments. With the help of 3 white mice, his progress was rapid. He constantly decrypts groups of genomes, continuously deciphering the high-level structure of DNA's superhelix. Gradually mastered the combination and arrangement of a portion of the genome. Adam drew a knife across the skinny man. Blood flowed out, revealing fresh red flesh. Under intense pain, the skinny man's throat emitted a painful and suppressed growl, veins bulging on his forehead, and sweat oozing from his body. Adam didn't care about this. He was completely focused on observing the wound. Because this was his 23rd experiment today. Because he had deciphered a portion of the genome, he wanted to replicate a part of the self-healing ability of the clone, in order to enhance the self-healing ability. If the subsequent research is completed, he can fill in the remaining parts, thus achieving a complete inheritance of Wolverine's self-healing ability. After 22 adjustments before, all the results failed, and the healing ability did not achieve the desired effect. After the previous failures, Adam was more confident in the 23rd experiment. He had great confidence that this time would be successful. When he saw the wound still bleeding, he sighed. It seems like a failure. Before he finished speaking, he saw the blood coagulating. Seeing this, Adam's eyes brightened. It seems that the self-healing factor has formed, the self-healing ability has been enhanced, and platelets and fibrinogen have begun to accelerate the clotting process. Soon, the bleeding stopped and turned into a dark red scab. The scab quickly fell off, and the skin scars recovered. He tapped the keyboard and the screen displayed the microscopic activity inside the wound. In the depths of the cells, bursts of fluorescence appeared, followed by the rapid proliferation of tissue at the wound site and the rapid formation of granulation tissue, far exceeding that of an ordinary person. And that fluorescence in the depths of the cells was the successful generation of the self-healing factor. A trace of joy flashed in Adam's eyes. Finally succeeded? Finally formed a certain self-healing factor. In a short period of time, the wound completely healed, although it can't match Wolverine's peak state, but it has far surpassed an ordinary person, reaching a non-human state. Even deep muscle injuries can recover relatively quickly. A 1 centimeter deep wound would take an ordinary person 1 to 2 weeks to heal, but with a partial replication of Wolverine's self-healing ability, it can heal in just a few minutes. Adam clenched his fist. This healing ability is indeed very powerful. Even with a partial replication of Wolverine's self-healing ability, it is already astonishing. With this self-healing ability, I can consider myself to have a strong survival ability. A hint of joy flashed in his eyes. He immediately began typing on the keyboard, recording the experimental data from just now and reviewing and reflecting on the previous 23 experiments. At the moment when the skinny man's wound healed itself, the 3 car thieves were all shocked. They never expected that one of them would truly gain extraordinary power in this experiment. Even more unexpectedly, they would possess such a terrifying self-healing ability. The fact that the wound healed in such a short time was simply horrifying. They looked at the terrifying figure of the demon and their hearts were in turmoil. It was this person who created all this strangeness. The genius level of the other party exceeded their imagination. Looking at the young and handsome face, they couldn't believe that such a young person would possess such powerful scientific research abilities. It turns out that this guy is a true super genius. At the same time, their fear deepened. Facing such an exceptionally talented existence, they felt that they would probably never escape its clutches in their lifetime. Adam seemed to be enveloped in infinite darkness. After typing the last word, Adam twisted his neck. Next, I will replicate this ability on myself. Speaking of this, here was a hint of anticipation in his tone. Chapter 37, 037 Powerful Self-Healing Ability. The X-24 next to him watched the successful experiment. As he watched the wounds on the skinny person quickly heal, he was stunned. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He really didn't expect it. He was just an ordinary person before, but in the next moment, he had such a strong self-healing ability. He now possessed the same self-healing ability as him. Although he didn't understand the knowledge behind it, he still felt shocked. He looked at Adam, his eyes filled with disbelief. At the same time, the disappearance of the neurotoxin in these days also allowed the clone to regain control of his body, but facing the magnetic handcuffs, he couldn't move at all. At the same time, facing the pain, he could no longer remain silent, and painful low growls came from his throat. This also brought a sense of comfort to the car thieves. Everyone is more or less the same. On Adam's side, he didn't pay any attention to the feelings of the 4 people. He began to focus on replicating the core part of the experiment he had just conducted. Every movement of his was perfectly replicated, as if he were a precise machine, mainly to ensure that there were no mistakes in the process. As time passed, the core part of the experiment was completely replicated onto his body. After a while, Adam looked at his arm and said, "Next, it's time to test it." After saying that, he took out a surgical knife and made a cut. With a hissing sound, flesh was cut open and blood flowed out. The pain hit Adam's nerves. He slightly frowned, and veins bulged on his forehead. But his gaze remained fixed on his own flesh and blood. The 3 car thieves next to him watched Adam, who didn't make a sound, and their eyes widened. They swallowed their saliva and looked at each other, their pupils trembling slightly. To cut open one's own flesh and blood, under such intense pain, and not make a sound. They had personally experienced that pain, and it was unbearable. But they didn't expect Adam to not make a sound at all. This level of willpower, this level of tolerance for pain, made the 3 car thieves feel fear. The person in front of them was not human at all. In fact, he was a devil wearing human skin. Adam stared at the wound. After a while, he saw the blood begin to coagulate, and under the transmission electron microscope, he could clearly see the proliferating tissue starting to grow. The granulation tissue on both sides of the wound began to grow, intertwining and integrating into new flesh. A few minutes later, the wound on his arm had completely healed. Only some blood stains remained. After gently wiping them away, everything was back to normal, as if the cut had never existed. Seeing this, Adam's eyes were filled with joy. Finally, it's done. A powerful self-healing ability. Although it hasn't reached the level of a young Wolverine, this self-healing ability is already very strong. With this powerful self-healing ability, Adam finally felt a bit safer. From now on, he would no longer be so fragile. If his injuries were slightly more severe, he could lose his life. Although he had previously injected the super soldier serum and his self-healing ability had been enhanced to some extent, but it still belonged to the realm of a normal person. If the injuries were too severe and important organs were affected, he would still die. Now, even in the case of serious injuries, even if important organs were affected, as long as he was given time, he could fully recover. He touched the healed area and nodded in satisfaction. Definitely. This is not enough. This is only a partial self-healing ability of Wolverine. It has not reached its peak. He still needs to continue working hard. He wants to become a complete Wolverine. Next, it's about continuing to work hard and overcome the entire genome of Wolverine. At the same time, he looked at the clone and muttered to himself, through the research during this period, I have also discovered. The adamantium inside the clone is constantly growing. That is the fusion of adamantium and bones, generating adamantium beta version, replacing the native bones. And these adamantium indeed constantly release toxins, continuously suppressing and destroying the generation of flesh and self-healing factors. However, at the moment, the suppression and destruction of the self-healing factors are not very obvious due to the short time. But over time, it will accumulate terrifying toxicity, ultimately completely suppressing the self-healing factors, causing the flesh to completely decay, and eventually leading to death. Wolverine aging to such an extent is strongly related to the toxicity of adamantium. Putting adamantium in the body is like placing a deadly poison. But for me, there is no problem, because I won't implant this thing into my body. At the same time, he looked at the records on the computer. Implanting adamantium into the body has both disadvantages and advantages. The advantage is that the indestructible adamantium can greatly protect the flesh of Wolverine's brain, making it harder for Wolverine to die. But this is a slow-acting lethal poison, and I won't do it. Just at this moment, his stomach growled. Adam patted his stomach. It's time to feed you. Immediately, he tidied up his laboratory and went back upstairs. He started preparing his meal. Soon, a large amount of rice and high-quality protein were placed in front of Adam. Now Adam's physique is much stronger than before, and his demand for food is greater. The protein comes from chicken and beef. While eating, Adam manipulated the computer and frantically bought stocks of Osborne Corporation. These days, apart from research, Adam has been constantly acquiring stocks of Osborne Corporation. The value of Osborne Corporation's stocks is now extremely low, almost like waste paper. Many people think that Osborne is completely finished. The reason for this result is twofold. One reason is that Norman Osborn's previous research mistakes led to the loss of the military, the most important investor. Without the support of massive military funds, the market generally does not have a positive view of Osborne Corporation, leading to a sharp drop in stock prices. Another important reason is that some important shareholders of Osborne Corporation have mysteriously died in recent days. This makes people even more reluctant to hold these stocks. More selling of stocks has caused the already sluggish stock prices to further decrease. These days, Adam efficiently visited the homes of some major shareholders and acquired their stocks. Now, he holds a 28% stake in Osborne Corporation, and is about to reach 31%, basically becoming the largest shareholder of Osborne Corporation. As long as he goes to the last major shareholder's house tonight and acquires the 20% of shares in their hands, and also acquires the scattered stocks in the stock market, his stake will reach 51%. Reaching 51% means absolute controlling interest, meaning absolute decision-making power. He will completely control Osborne Corporation, having absolute power of speech. By then, he will obtain all the resources within Osborne. He will have the superior Spider-Man. In addition, he will be able to upgrade his own laboratory iteratively. Adam kept tapping on the keyboard, collecting scattered stocks in the stock market. He frowned slightly. There are still people constantly competing with me for the scattered stocks. At this time, there are still people buying in large quantities. Is it the Green Goblin? Adam narrowed his eyes. No matter who you are, you can't win against me. As long as I get that 20% of the shares tonight, even if I can't completely control it, I will be the largest shareholder. Osborne Corporation is mine. Adam's voice was calm and powerful. Chapter 38, 038, Angry Green Goblin. A tall building built in the last century, carrying a hint of historical weight. One of the floors, exquisitely decorated. Inside the spacious study, a middle-aged man sits at the desk, looking at the computer in front of him. On it is a stock trading interface. You can see that stock transactions are being completed, but it's not him who is doing it, it's someone else. The stocks being traded are the stocks of Osborne Corporation. The middle-aged man just sits there, watching others acquire a large number of stocks. He is also buying, but he doesn't have that much money, so he can only watch others acquire more stocks. The middle-aged man is Norman Osborn. He really has no money left. After all, over the years, he has put all his efforts into the production of a serum for human enhancement. The entire company has been continuously investing in this project. As a result, the company has not been profitable. It mainly relies on funding from the military to sustain itself. This is also the reason why the board of directors is dissatisfied with Osborn himself. They blame him for putting all the resources into a bottomless pit, causing the company to have no profits. This is also the reason why the project failed in the end, and after the military withdrew its funding, the board of directors kicked Osborn out. The company is not profitable, so Osborn himself has not had any income for these years, and he doesn't have much savings. As for expenses, they are mostly reimbursed by the company. Now, Osborn wants to regain control of the company, so he is constantly collecting stocks. Collecting scattered stocks in the stock market. Originally, he thought that no one would compete with him for the stocks of Osborne Corporation. After all, Osborne Corporation has no prospects now, but he didn't expect it. Recently, there has been someone in the market who is crazily acquiring stocks in the stock market, with much more capital than him. This scene drives Osborn crazy and angry. Seeing this scene, Osborn's eyes burn with anger, his face twisted. Damn it, who is it? Constantly snatching the stocks in the market. During this period, this mysterious person has been constantly snatching Osborne stocks in the market, acquiring them like crazy. He actually wants to take all of Osborne's shares into his hands. Does this guy want to take my company away? He raises his fist and smashes it against the iron cup beside him. Bang! The iron cup is unexpectedly flattened by him. Osborne grits his teeth and says, Osborne Corporation is mine. No one can take it away. Whoever wants to take my company away, I will kill him. At this moment, a struggle appears on Osborn's face. No, I can't kill. Killing is wrong. You can't control my body to kill. Osborn tightly clenches his fist, trembling all over, seemingly trying to control himself with all his might. But in the next moment, Osborn reveals a sinister smile. No, you want to kill. All those who try to take your company away are your enemies. Unforgivable enemies. These days, I have already killed several major shareholders and reclaimed a large number of shares. Aren't you happy? Osborn then changes his face, struggling. If I want to take back the company, I won't do such despicable things. I will use my abilities to regain the company. As long as I research more things, the military will definitely come back. The struggle disappears, Osborn's face twists into a grimace, and he sneers, you alone will never be able to take back the company. Only with my blessing can you get what you want? We are one, you shouldn't resist me. Immediately, Osborn looks at the stock trading interface on the computer. His face is terrifyingly twisted. No matter who you are, I will definitely find you. I will tear you into 1,000 pieces. I will make you realize that there is only a dead end when you try to snatch something from me, Norman Osborn. At this point, Osborn clenched his fist, his eyes filled with cold light. He then looked to the side. A piece of paper lay calmly on the desk. The paper had an address written on it. Seeing this, Osborn sneered. No matter who you are, no matter how you struggle, you cannot take my company from me. As long as I get the remaining 20% of the shares from the last major shareholder tonight, I will be the largest shareholder of the company. I will have the greatest say. And you are just a jumping joker. He stood up, walked towards the bookshelf on the side, gently pressed a certain book. With a bang, the bookshelf opened, revealing a secret room. Inside, a set of green battlesuit hung. Next to it, there was a silver skateboard with a fierce appearance. Seeing this, Osborn grinned, and this is the capital for me to take back the company. That jumping joker hiding in the dark, when I find you, you will know how ridiculous you are. A sinister laughter echoed in the study. Safe house. Adam continued to buy stocks on the market. At this time, an anonymous email was sent. After opening it, it was from Chloe. During this time, Chloe would occasionally inquire about his situation and ask if he needed help. In addition, Elizabeth would also inquire about him. This time, Chloe sent an email. Besides the usual inquiries about his situation, he also talked about his own situation. Almost a month has passed. HYDRA has greatly reduced their search efforts for Chloe because they haven't found any clues. And Little L has been trapped in the deep mountains every day, feeling uncomfortable. So Klaus and Little L disguised themselves and went to a nearby amusement park to have some fun. Little L had a great time. After that, there were some greetings from Little L, indicating that she missed him a little. Looking at Chloe's email, Adam's mouth curled up, and he felt a little happier. He immediately replied, saying that everything was fine on his side. After finishing the reply, Adam looked at his account. The original balance of $20 million was almost depleted. Although Osborn's company's stocks were almost worthless, a camel is still bigger than a horse, and the stocks he bought had almost exhausted all his money. So, he currently has no cash to acquire the remaining 20% of the shares from the last major shareholder. But he must obtain the last 20% of the shares in order to have the greatest say in the company. Therefore, he needs something to help him obtain these shares. He looked up in the direction of Osborn's company. Chapter 39, 039 Blood Plasma Band-Aids. He really has no money left. But that doesn't mean he can't get the shares from the last major shareholder. He can get the shares from the last shareholder by painting a realistic pie, a practical pie. As for what kind of pie it is, that would be him reviving Osborn Corporation and turning losses into profits. Then, he can use a portion of the profits as the purchase fee for a 20% stake, using future money to buy current shares. It's basically a fantasy. In general, people wouldn't agree to it. But now is not a normal situation. After all, for the major shareholder, the shares in his hands are actually a hot potato. Their value has plummeted. Most importantly, holding on to these shares poses a life-threatening danger. So the major shareholder definitely wants to get rid of these shares. But in this situation, there's basically no one willing to take over these shares. His appearance at the moment is a lifeline. As long as he can further convince the other party that his pie can be exchanged, then the major shareholder has no reason not to sell. Speaking of which, he has to thank the person who made the situation so chaotic. If it weren't for that person, he definitely wouldn't be able to get so many shares with his own money. Definitely. To succeed, he also needs the other party to believe that he can exchange this pie, to believe that he can turn the company's losses into profits. So he needs a technology that can turn the company's losses into profits. After the other party sees it, they will willingly eat his pie. However, the technologies he currently has are not easy to present. Either they are from HYDRA, which would cause trouble, or they have distinct personal characteristics, which would easily lead others to associate them with him, or they are simply not suitable for presentation, more important. So, he has set his sights on the outside world. Just right. He hasn't been idle these days and has done some investigation. In Osborn Corporation, there is a technology that can be brought to the market with some improvements. That is Kurt Connor's plasma technology. Kurt, who later became the Lizard Doctor, one of Spider-Man's opponents. During the Vietnam War, he was recruited and sent to the front lines to perform surgery on wounded soldiers. One day, the base was attacked by the enemy, and Connors suffered irreparable damage to his right hand in a big explosion. In order to save his life, he chose amputation and was sent back to the United States for recovery. To grow his right hand back and become a whole person again, Kurt began a long research career. He desperately studied the regenerative systems of reptiles and various aspects of reptile biology. During this time, Kurt's research finally yielded results. He developed a plasma extracted from reptile DNA. He tested it on a lame rabbit and it had great effects. According to Adam's estimation, Kurt should have completed the full development of the plasma in these 2 days, to be able to completely grow new legs for a crippled rabbit. And this complete plasma will allow Kurt to grow new hands. However, with this comes powerful side effects. Kurt will turn into a lizard-like creature, and his mental state will be greatly affected and distorted. Adam naturally does not want to directly use Kurt's plasma technology. The side effects are too great, and the effectiveness is too strong. Based on his deductions and tests over the past few days, as long as the effectiveness of this plasma technology is greatly weakened, the side effects will also be weakened without limits. While the effectiveness is at play, the side effects will be automatically excreted within the safe range of the human immune system, along with the body's digestive and rejection systems. It will not cause any harm to the human body. He plans to apply the weakened version of the plasma technology to adhesive bandages and medical bandages, which will only have the functions of stopping bleeding and protecting wounds compared to regular adhesive bandages and medical bandages. His plasma adhesive bandages and bandages will accelerate wound healing, 3 times faster than natural healing. Although it is far from the effects of the complete plasma or Wolverine's self-healing ability, it is much better than conventional drugs. Moreover, plasma can be extracted from reptiles, and the cost is within a controllable range, making it completely possible to produce medical products that can be used by the general public. This is enough for him to revive Osborne Corporation and turn losses into profits. This is the key for him to let the major shareholders eat the big cake with peace of mind. He glanced at the time. It's about time to talk to Kurt. After all, we can't let him take the plasma at this time and turn into a lizard-like creature. In that case, it would be much more troublesome to obtain the plasma formula. And, Kurt in his human state is also a good research assistant and subordinate. For the future development of the company, just having an adhesive bandage is not enough. As a genius biologist, Kurt can help me develop more things. After finishing speaking, Adam finished his last bite of food and began to clean up the mess on the table. But to be honest, the food I made can only fill the stomach. It doesn't taste like anything. Chloe's cooking is still better. Adam shook his head at his own cooking skills. After cleaning up everything, he left, heading to Osborne Corporation to find Kurt, who is currently working as a researcher in the company. Definitely, before leaving, he also put on some makeup. He applied a fake beard and wore a fisherman's hat and sunglasses, basically changing his appearance. Soon, he arrived downstairs at Osborne Corporation by car. At this moment, there was a sense of decay in the air at Osborne Corporation. There were fewer people working, and it felt sparse. And everyone carried a sense of frustration. After all, in the eyes of everyone, the company is about to collapse, so how can they not feel frustrated? Adam walked to the front desk. Hello, I'm looking for Kurt Connors. The receptionist didn't look up and sneered. Don't bother, he's not here. Adam raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? He was fired by the company. Kurt himself is always researching reptiles, and sometimes it delays his work. In addition, their research group has not produced any results. Besides, the company is already in a bad financial situation and can't afford to keep more idle people, so he was fired. Upon hearing this, Adam narrowed his eyes slightly. Chapter 40, 040 I will succeed this time. Hearing this, Adam was taken aback. Unexpectedly, Kurt was actually fired. But it also feels reasonable. After all, even Osborne himself is struggling to survive, constantly reducing staff. Kurt, because he was busy with plasma technology, sometimes delayed his normal work, so naturally he would be fired. Adam immediately asked the other party for Kurt's home address. Of course, the front desk would not disclose such privacy to Adam until Adam offered $200. Immediately, he rushed towards Kurt's address. At the same time, Adam frowned slightly. Now that Kurt has been fired and his life has been hit, he is likely to inject plasma to change the situation. He must stop it. Thinking of this, Adam suddenly stepped on the accelerator. Boom! The car shot out. An old apartment building. Various facilities are also quite old, even the plaster on the walls is peeling off. The corridor is narrow, and many lights are not working due to long-term disrepair, making it dim. Entered one of them. The space is cramped and crowded, with various cheap daily necessities crowded in corners and on tables. The damaged sofa reveals yellow sponge inside. Inside the kitchen, the faucet is broken at the joint, spraying a stream of water. Clattering, the sound of hurried slippers hitting the floor. A middle-aged woman hurriedly ran up. Kurt? The faucet is broken again. She wrapped the gap in the faucet with a towel to stop the water from spraying. The overhead lights flickered, sometimes bright and sometimes dim. She looked up. Kurt, our lights have been broken for a week. Let's find time to replace them. Clang! The refrigerator was opened, and the food inside was almost depleted. Kurt, our food is running out too. She closed the refrigerator. She wiped off the water splashed on her face, walked out of the kitchen, and wiped the water on her waistband that had been used for several years. All of this shows the poverty of this family. On the sofa, a middle-aged man with a broken arm sat despondently, his head hanging down. He looked up at his wife, his face bitter. Martha, I was fired. Hearing the other party's words, Martha stopped in her tracks. She looked at her husband, her hands wiping the water in confusion. What did you say? Kurt spoke. I received a call. The company told me not to go anymore. I was fired. Martha was a little dazed. Then, what about our future expenses? We are running out of food at home, the faucet, the kitchen lights are broken, and the toilet in the bathroom is always having problems. Martha was at a loss. The money I earn from working alone in the convenience store is completely insufficient for the expenses of this family. Martha sat next to Kurt, grabbing his leg. Can you find a job as soon as possible? Kurt clenched his hand slightly, lowered his head, and said ashamedly, I am a disabled person, and I am already middle-aged. Because of long-term research, I am out of touch with society. It's difficult to find a job quickly. Martha fell silent after hearing this. Neither of them expected to encounter a midlife crisis. The air in the entire room became unusually oppressive and heavy. This middle-aged couple seemed to be struggling to breathe. Especially Kurt. One hand tightly clutched onto his pants, head lowered. It's all my fault. If I wasn't disabled, I wouldn't have desperately researched the plasma for curing my arm. If I hadn't been so focused on researching the plasma, I wouldn't have occasionally delayed my work, and I wouldn't have been fired. If I weren't disabled, if I were a normal person, I could find many things that normal people can do, and I wouldn't be facing this situation. It's all my fault. I'm useless, and I've burdened you. Martha immediately hugged Kurt. Don't be like this, Kurt. Let's think of another solution. If it really doesn't work, I'll go ask my parents for some money. Martha's parents have always looked down on Kurt, always mocking and ridiculing him, so Martha was very angry and hadn't contacted her parents for a long time. If it weren't for the family's difficulties, Martha would never have asked for their help. Hearing Martha's words, Kurt felt even more distressed. Martha quickly dialed her parents' number. On the other end, Martha's mother's voice came through. What's wrong? Are you facing some difficulties? Otherwise, why would you think of us? Is Osborne Company about to collapse? Did he lose his job? Or has he already lost his job? Martha's mother immediately guessed the purpose of Martha's call. And so, she began to mock and ridicule. I told you before, not to marry him. A man with a severed hand, who can't earn money, and is just a bookworm. I told you, he won't amount to anything. You didn't listen, and now you come to us. You let him come up with the money. Can he? He's just a useless waste. I told you, marrying a shoe shiner would be better than him. Before Martha could speak, her mother's cold mockery made Martha shudder all over. Kurt, who was beside her, felt even more heartbroken upon hearing this. He reached out and hung up the phone. What are you doing? I'm still borrowing money, Martha said. Kurt lifted his head and looked at the cluttered coffee table. Among them was a small glass bottle filled with blood-red liquid, reflecting a dangerous blood-colored light. He gritted his teeth. Martha, don't say anything. Let me solve this myself. My plasma has already been tested on a crippled rabbit, and it perfectly grew a new leg. I'm planning to inject the plasma into myself and regenerate my hand. As long as I recover, I can do manual labor, take on odd jobs. We can support ourselves. Saying that, he reached out towards the glass bottle filled with plasma. Martha immediately grabbed his hand and shook her head. No, this won't do. You're a scientist, you know, one successful case is not enough to prove that plasma can be safely used on the human body. This kind of experiment can't be rushed, you need to try it multiple times. Kit's body trembled. I've already been fired by Osborne. I don't have the equipment and tools to continue the experiments. And we're barely getting by now. I don't have time to experiment. He gritted his teeth. Martha, let go of me. Let me completely solve this matter this time. I promise, this time it will definitely be successful, and we will be able to get out of our predicament. Saying that, he felt a surge of determination from somewhere, broke free from his wife's embrace, and grabbed the bottle of plasma. Kit's eyes slightly reddened. I will definitely succeed this time. Bang! The half-closed door was pushed open. Hold on. A calm and powerful voice sounded. The three car thieves finally arrived at their destination. Looking at the villa in front of them, the group of them smiled knowingly. Indeed, it's a big fat sheep.